2016 has been a great traveling and sightseeing year for Jeff and I, totaling 8,500 miles round trip, starting in January with our drive from Melbourne, Florida to Manteca, California, and in July from Manteca, California to Seattle, Washington, and ending at the end of October from Seattle to Melbourne. Our trip started in January with our first stop in New Orleans. This was my first time visiting the city, and we had little time to see it. We had a great time. We did lots of eating, sightseeing, and of course shopping while strolling down Bourbon Street. Next was crossing the great state of Texas. Anyone who has driven across the state knows just how long it takes to get through it. We had an overnight stay in Fort Stockton, Texas.
Oh my God, 23 degrees. I'm freezing.
It is Thursday morning and Jeff and I just left Leaf Verde, just west. It's an RV park just west of Phoenix, Arizona. And we are headed now west on I-10, but we are taking a small detour towards Slab City. Slab City is located to the southeast of Palm Springs. While there, we visited Salvation Mountain, and that was a cool yet odd place to visit. Slab City was featured in the movie Into the Wild that recounted Christopher McCandless's adventures across North America. If you haven't seen it, you must.
I don't even know what to make of all this. I mean, really. Kind of crazy and kind of spooky at the same time. So
after a short run through Slab City, we made our way onto Palm Springs, where we spent a couple of days sightseeing, eating, and shopping. Our timing couldn't have been any better. Thursday night Village Fest was awesome, with lots of people, food, and music.
So we're just gonna walk down this trail and kind of take a look around, maybe play in the snow a little bit. We're walking uphill and we're kind of winded because the air is thin. Ooh, Jesus, put some air in our lungs. We're going further up and we're gonna hang out in the lounge in the nice heat is what we finna do. Hello, hello, hello. Well, take a look at this view. We are in Malibu and we just pulled in and got finished setting up. So let me show you. I mean, that right there is the Pacific Ocean. How awesomely gorgeous is that?
And of course, we had to visit Hollywood and do what the tourists do. Hollywood Walk of Fame, TCL Chinese Theater, eating, and of course, shopping. We also made trips to Chinatown and Venice Beach. Malibu Beach was one of our favorite places to stay. When headed back out this way, we would definitely be staying here again. From here, we went to Manteca, California, and settled into the RV park I would be calling home for the next 4.5 months.
Hey, good morning from French Camp. So we just walked around the campsite just kind of looking at potential spots that I would like, and of course I marked it on the map so that when she tries to give me something I know whether or not it's good or bad. And it's a bit chilly and damp in this area. This area has been getting a lot of rain, which California needs, so no problems there. But the cold, oh my God, it's cold.
I had the opportunity to live in the Tab for approximately 4.5 months at an RV park while working at a hospital in Modesto, California. I never anticipated actually living in the Tab, but I wanted to challenge myself. I had to learn to live on the bare minimum and adjust to living in such a small, confining space. Not having Jeff and the 2 puppies around made for very lonely days. And I had a lot of time to do a lot of thinking about everything that was going on in my life. I got the opportunity to meet a lot of new people at the park. All nurses and spouses, all traveling in RVs. I didn't realize there was such a group of travel nurses doing this, and I learned a lot from them. And I am forever indebted to their kindness. But in the end, I really enjoyed it, and it was such a pleasure to live here. However, in the beginning, I had a few challenges thrown in my way, and it turned out that this area had some experiences I was not prepared for.
I've been in Modesto now for about 10 weeks, working here at Doctors Medical Center. And I've had a really interesting time here, to say the least. A lot of you know that when I first got here, my car was broken into and items stolen from me, and a couple of weeks later I had my credit card compromised from a fast food restaurant here, and these were experiences, or new experiences for me, because I've never had that happen to me before. The Central Valley is quite interesting, and I've never experienced such a thing before here, where there is an extremely large population of IV drug use. And when I talk about a large population of IV drug use, there probably isn't a day where I don't work, that I'm not caring for an IV drug user that is either dying or has been severely sickened by their lifestyle.
The best part of living here is that it was centrally located. Yosemite National Park and other natural beauties are within a couple hours drive away, and San Francisco is about an hour and a half away. I especially enjoyed taking a day trip to San Francisco because there is so much to see, do, and eat there. I can get lost in Chinatown. The variety of foods and shopping is amazing. Seeing San Francisco again will be the reason why I go back to the area to work. Well, it's Friday, the day before we're supposed to all fly out to California. Jeff, the two dogs, Ajax and Zoe, and I.
So this is the first time Zoe and Ajax ever left home for such a long period and distance. We didn't know what to expect, and we were nervous and excited for them, with our biggest concern being the flight. United Airlines' Pet Safe program worked flawlessly for us. We could see the dogs loaded on and off the plane as we were taking our seats, so we knew that they were safe. So we finally made it out of the airport, and look, their dogs are okay. The dogs are okay. Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Sunday morning, July the 10th, and look, my car and my camper, we are ready to go. We are ready to head our way up to Seattle. Our drive from Antigua, California to Seattle, Washington took us along California and Oregon's Highway 101 along the coast, where we stayed at various RV parks situated along the beaches. The RV parks were great with easy access to the beach, and we enjoyed walking along them with the dogs. The weather was perfect, and we could not have asked for a better travel experience. This was the first time Zoe and Ajax ever overlooked cliffs. You could see it on their faces that this was a new experience for them. After spending a week along the coast, the great city of Seattle was next, and we couldn't wait for this next phase of our travels. It was great to see Seattle again, and Jeff and I really looked forward to this. We were especially excited that this time Ajax and Zoe would be here with us to experience it. Yeah, I know, we do treat them like they're our children. We didn't realize the impact the big city would have on them. All the loud noises, the smells, all the people. You could tell that they were having to deal with the stress of it all. But Jeff and I really enjoyed the city. The food, the smells, the people, the overall variety of things going on all at the same time just made Seattle so appealing to us. Nature hikes mixed in between city life made this the ideal place to live. Since I had worked for this hospital the year before, it was great to see all my friends that I had made the previous year. It was like nothing had changed. Good people, good work, good environment, and of course, my family. However, my contract came and went, and October was upon us. It was time to say goodbye to Seattle before the cold, wet, and dark season made its way to settle over this part of the country. It was back to Florida we go for the holidays, but this drive would take us through some of the prettiest parts of the country Jeff and I have never seen before. Hey everybody, what's going on? Well, Jeff and I about 5 hours ago left Seattle. On October 13th, we loaded up and headed out. The first 3 days of our trip took us through the states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Utah. The weather on the first 2 days were windy and rainy, but by the time we reached Utah, things started to clear up. Our overnight stays spent at travel centers with nice hot showers to start off our day. Our first major stop was at Sand Hollow State Park, outside the towns of Hurricane and St. George in southern Utah, and a 50-minute drive to the entrance of Zion National Park. This was a great and inexpensive state park to stay at with the camper, a good alternative to the always full and more expensive parks within Zion National Park. Zion National Park was gorgeous, with stunning views from inside the canyon up. The roads are narrow, with large tour buses sharing the roads and lots of visitors. This really takes away from the natural beauty of the park and replaces it with a theme park-like experience. To really get away from the crowds, you had to get off the populated areas and head for the trails. After spending 2 days at this location, we picked up our stuff and headed to our next destination, Kodachrome Basin State Park. Kodachrome Basin State Park is located in a very secluded area about 2.5 hours drive northeast from Sand Hollow State Park. The nearest town with provisions and Wi-Fi is Tropic, a 20-minute drive from the basin. Kodachrome is beautiful. You are literally inside a basin surrounded by gorgeous orange and white rock. Like with Sand Hollow State Park, Kodachrome is a good alternative for camping when the campgrounds located within Bryce Canyon are full or you just don't want to deal with the large crowds. Bryce Canyon National Park is about a 30-minute drive away and is a must-see while you're in the area. Here you can get a stunning view of Bryce Canyon rock formations and colors. And if you are in the Kodachrome Basin and or Bryce Canyon area,
Do take advantage of the trails, they are stunning. After spending 2 days here, it was time to head to Moab, Utah, where we would spend the next 2 days. Moab, Utah was a cool little town, where a large number of its visitors are passing through to see the nearby Arches and Canyonlands National Parks. We stayed at a campground situated close to the Colorado River, where folks from all walks of life came to rest. From people with expensive Class A rigs, to those homemade converted vans, to individuals just backpacking it across the country. While here, you must visit Arches and Canyonlands National Park. The majority of the park is a drive, pull over or park, take pictures and move on situation. But you can get more intimate with the park by exploring its trails. After spending a couple of days in Moab, it was time to leave the desert behind and head for Manitou Springs, Colorado. Our drive from Moab, Utah to Manitou Springs, Colorado would take us along the Colorado River on Interstate 70 and over the Great Rocky Mountains. I was particularly concerned about this portion of the drive because I knew my 2,000-pound tow vehicle would be pushed to its limits, and it was. Shortly after meeting up with a friend of Jeff's for an afternoon lunch in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, we entered the toughest part of this drive. In an attempt to pass a truck, my vehicle started to overheat and I was forced to pull over and allow it to cool off. This is when we officially recognized the limitations of my tow vehicle. Lesson reinforced. We needed to take it slow and steady. Fortunately, my car ran perfectly for the rest of the trip home. Manitou Springs, Colorado is a cool little hippie town located between Pikes Peak and Colorado Springs. We stayed at this little RV park within walking distance from the downtown area and the Garden of the Gods. The downtown area had awesome little shops, cool little places to eat, and they even had an arcade area for both kids and adults to enjoy. The Garden of the Gods is a relatively large natural park with decent hiking trails, which oddly resembled the area around Moab, Utah, only with trees. After spending 2 days here, Jeff and I were ready to go. The great city of Chicago was next.
Hey, good morning. Ajax, say good morning, my love. Anyway, welcome to day 11 of our cross-country drive. It's Sunday, and we just left Manitou Springs, Colorado, a couple hours ago, and past Denver, and we are headed for Chicago right now as we speak. However, we have many miles ahead of us. It's roughly 1,000 something miles, and our first day today of this trip is going to involve just hoofing it as much east as we can, and I'm looking at doing a 15 to 17 hour drive today. That will land us around Des Moines, Iowa. Tomorrow we are looking at pulling into North Chicago area. We after like a 300 and something mile drive, we are going to be staying at the the Illinois Beach State Park, which is North Chicago, just north of the Great Lakes Naval Training Station. I actually went to boot camp and my Class A school there back in 1989 and 1990. So I'm actually really excited to see this place again and see the different changes. It's going to take at least one full day of running around Chicago itself and sightseeing and eating while we're there. While we're also there, we are going to be looking for a doggy daycare for the puppies to spend some time at socializing with other dogs. So tomorrow as we drive, we're gonna kind of look that up. So we're excited about this Chicago trip. We are definitely feeling home pulling on us. Home is pulling on us. Get us home. And roughly, I think we've pretty much worked it out. About 2 weeks seems to be enough of a trip for both of us. After 2 weeks, it starts getting redundant and tiring and whatnot. So I think Chicago will be our final big stop.
This would be the first time Jeff had been to the city of Chicago, and we only had 1 day to do it because a huge cold rainstorm was headed our way. The next morning, we took the dogs to the local daycare where they would spend the day, with Jeff and I catching the train southbound to Chicago. It was a cold and gloomy day, but the city was awesome. We really enjoy walking around these large cities, taking in the sights, shopping, and of course eating. As with all big cities we visit, we have to make a stop into the local Chinatown area for food and shopping, and this was no exception. After spending a week and a half in the rural areas of Utah, this was a great change in environment from that. However, home was calling us, and it was calling us hard. It made for an easy decision to leave from home the next day when this cold, wet storm made its way into the area. So early the next morning, we packed up and headed south. Jeff and I took turns driving, and the only time we stopped was for food and gas, finally arriving in Melbourne 15 hours later. Exhausted from the trip, we had to take a break and spent the next few days unwinding. It was back to the usual mundane routine of being home. The adventure was over and the holidays were quickly approaching. As with all these drives, I look back and see what I could have changed to make things better. I'm a meticulous planner. The problem with this trip was I only allowed 2 days at each park, but I didn't think about the first day being spent traveling to that location, so it left us with a day and a half at best of exploring. We also had all the intentions of doing some awesome hiking in the areas, but it just didn't turn out that way. Jeff and I were just content with relaxing with the dogs and doing drive-by sightseeings. This largely had to do with the time I inappropriately scheduled at each location, and driving allowed us to see more in the time we had, but less intimate with nature. Shortly, I will be making plans for 2017, deciding where I might work and where Jeff and I might want to visit. We have specific financial goals we want to reach by the end of 2017, so working hard this year is going to be important. Finding the highest paid contracts, no matter where they are located, will be more of a priority than where we may want to live. So Seattle may, and I emphasize may, not happen this year because of the expense of living in the city. But like all things, we can only plan. But ultimately, we go to where our hearts take us.